You're listening to On Mission with Dr. Matt Davis, a podcast designed to explore the personal mission of everyday leaders. Hear from men and women who are making a difference in their corner of the world and discover what keeps them on mission. Welcome to On Mission. I am Dr. Matt Davis, and today my guest is retired Chick-fil-A operator Alex Rodriguez, a famous name.
Yes, it
for
is.
different reasons. Alex has been married to his high school sweetheart, Nancy, for 42 years, and they have 3 adult children and 10 grandchildren. He serves in his local church and has also served as a board member for many years of a nonprofit called the Atlanta Dream Center, which is an outreach organization in the Atlanta, Georgia area that addresses the very important issue of human trafficking, homelessness, and helping to feed those who are food insecure. Currently, he is a professional coach with Measured Results Consulting, an outstanding people development organization that customizes solutions for food industry businesses, which he knows an awful lot about. Alex, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you very much.
So,
should I call you Dr. Matt or Matt?
You can just call me Matt, and
Okay.
that'd be just fine.
Okay.
Just don't tell anybody outside the room, all right? The students probably get in trouble for that,
Okay.
but I'll give you that dispensation, all right, today. And honestly, looking forward to a great conversation. You have such a diverse experience and range of things that you've been involved in life. God's given you a lot of opportunities over the years.
Yeah, I'm incredibly blessed by what God has done to this poor Cuban when I was born in Florida, and just amazing things that he's done. I just pinch myself sometimes with the opportunity to bless him in this kingdom.
Yeah.
And just unbelievably grateful.
Now, you grew up, you said you're Cuban by origin, and I'm sure you played baseball.
I did.
You ever been mistaken for anybody else that has a similar name?
Absolutely. Especially when I go to New York to go on a business trip with my wife for a weekend, and they say, my wife comes in first and drops the luggage off at the front desk, and they say, "Are you his wife?" I said, I don't think he'd be staying here. So anyway, we say that's a tongue-in-cheek, but they just get
Yeah. They don't know what to do. They get tongue-tied.
Right. And so when you see me walk in, I'm obviously not him.
A little different.
Absolutely.
But you played ball growing up?
I did play baseball. I played high school baseball. I played baseball my whole life. Was a pitcher in high school. Went to college on a scholarship. Was going to get drafted out of high school. And my dad told the team that wanted to draft me out of high school, he has to go to college. And so that first semester after signing my scholarship,
Wow.
I tore my rotator cuff.
No.
I was a pitcher.
Oh, no.
And so back then, there was no repairing rotator cuffs. You were done.
Yeah.
And so it was a painful time in my life because my family counted on me getting out of we were very poor. And so they needed me, and I felt the weight of that responsibility to provide for my family.
Is that common for kids growing up in that kind of environment?
It is. If you've got a skill set and you have a talent, then the expectation is, and that was partially my fault because I took it on, but my mom and dad both worked 2 or 3 jobs all the time, and they were just trying to we just got food on our table.
Yeah.
And so I just took it on at a very early age, probably too early. So I kind of missed my whole youth time. I was always an adult.
Yeah, you had to grow up before your time.
Pretty quick. But I took it as a challenge.
Yep.
And I'm very competitive. And I took it on, and then God just began to open doors of my abilities and a lot of hard work.
Was that the end of your playing career?
It was very painful.
Did you have to drop out from college, or were you able to continue?
I did not. I had to leave the college that I was at because I quickly found out that it's a business.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to give you, back then it was $25,000 for first semester. And they said, "You're done. This contract says you need to perform." And I had to stop.
But you say, "I got hurt doing this for you."
Yeah, well.
I didn't remember that part.
Still about the dollars and cents.
Oh, wow.
And so then I went to a community
Good
college.
thing they got all the money out of college sports, huh?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a whole different story. So I went to a community college, but I had to go to work.
Yep.
My mom and dad could not afford, so I went to work at Chick-fil-A.
So that's
how I started.
Your starting point with Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, January 24th, 1979.
Was that in the Atlanta area?
No, that wasn't. I was born in Tampa, Florida.
Tampa.
So that's where
I used to live in Tampa.
Oh, well, that's my home.
Sure.
Big sombrero.
Ybor City.
Oh, love
Huge
Ybor
Cuban
City. Best Cuban coffee around.
Yeah.
Oh, it's great Cuban sandwiches too. Awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
So
for some reason they put a pickle in there. And
I don't
that's
know.
what makes it Cuban. I don't
It's
know.
not bad. It's okay. It's hard to replicate those sandwiches.
It
So
is.
we were in Tampa, and I had to go work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I had to do it because I would go to school.
So did you work a lot of hours during that
I
time?
worked every night
Wow.
because I would go to school in the morning, had all night classes.
Yep.
I mean, I had day classes and I worked at night,
Mm-hmm.
and I worked 12 to close every day but Saturday. Saturday I worked 5 to 12 in the mall. There's only malls. There's no malls.
Okay.
There's no Chick-fil-A. The way
You might even have to explain what a mall is to
I
people
hear
these
you.
days. They
I
don't
hear
know.
you. I always classify that, Chick-fil-A's in a mall. When I started working, there were 99 cents for a Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
No nuggets, no waffle fry. I mean, I can tell you a whole different menu that nobody's ever seen.
Wow.
So I had to go to work,
Yep.
and that's what I did.
But that work ethic that you saw in your mom and dad
Oh,
just got translated.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It applied to my athletic career.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't always the fastest or the smartest or threw the hardest. I threw hard, but I threw about 95.
Wow.
But
In college, that's huge.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's why it was so painful to.
And that's why you blew your rotator cuff. You're not meant to throw
95 in high school. That's pretty hard.
Yeah.
It's good, but.
Do you have advice for student athletes coming up, how to balance some of those things?
No, I've asked that. My son, who loves baseball, he's a pastor now.
Really?
Yep. He's
You're
a pastor.
proud of him for that, huh?
Absolutely. I got
Wow.
a good story about that too.
Okay.
It'll really blow you away. It has to do with money and success. And so he loves baseball, and my two daughters, they're both all of them in ministry. And so just grateful for what God has done.
Yeah.
And just seeing God's hand in my life through the whole thing. I can look back now reflectively and say, wow, if this had happened, if that had happened. And
Sure.
it is just amazing.
So you worked at Chick-fil-A, and then it became your career once you
did.
finally did conclude your college years.
I got my two-year degree, my AA degree. I was going to my junior year in college. And then I was really intrigued by Chick-fil-A operator agreement, because the operator that I work for, who is still an operator.
No.
Yes. He goes, Alex, how did you retire before me? I said, somebody called me to stop working and do something different.
Yeah, true.
And so I followed him. And anyway, so he is still there.
Wow.
And it was an amazing journey.
I'll be. So I want to ask you a big question here at the
Okay.
beginning, called the On Mission Podcast.
Yep.
And we always hit our guests with a kind of a deep question here.
Mm-hmm.
But have you thought much about what is your mission in life?
My mission in life is to let leaders,
Mm-hmm.
husbands, and business leaders know that it's not about what the world says is success. Success is defined by how Jesus defined it, by serving selflessly and being blessing to others, leading generously. That's part of my mission statement. That is something that I live and walk my whole life with throughout my whole career at Chick-fil-A and being a husband.
Yeah.
It is about serving unconditionally, selflessly, putting others before yourself. And if I can witness that to leaders in the business world, to show them that you can be successful still being caring, generous, and serving, this is how you do it, to honor him.
Well, you're packing a whole lot into that. That's an incredible way to say it. I wonder if we can spend a little time talking about how to live it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
because
great.
you worked for an organization, Chick-fil-A, for all those years and had an inside scoop. And, these days, Chick-fil-A is almost legendary for its unique menu and its
Yep.
unique business processes. I mean, they run a drive-through like nobody's business.
For sure.
And very, very successful.
Absolutely.
But a lot of us also understand that it was a company that was founded by some Christians that intentionally tried to bring Christian principles into it, not in a manipulative way, but in a real and tangible way. And they made some tough choices to put that into practice that maybe
Absolutely.
didn't make a lot of sense from a business standpoint as well, even financially. So I wonder, from your inside view, if you could talk a little bit about the founder and your experience and how you got into being an operator and how that kind of unfolded.
Well, we don't have enough time for the whole story, but I'll give you some highlights.
Yeah.
I had an incredible privilege. I got my first restaurant as an owner when I was 23. I got the greatest opportunity to do my contract with Truett across the table.
Wow.
and an incredible, I mean, you've heard my story just a few minutes ago about poor, working hard, diligently. And he told me, Alex, I believe in you.
What did that mean to you when he said that?
He meant, wow, this very successful person, and I was not the sharpest pencil in the box in school, because it was a really hard time at school because I would speak Spanish at home and do English in school. That was really hard. But he said, I see something in you. I see something in you that you can do really well. And I said, Truett, thank you for this opportunity, but I want to make it really clear. Is Jesus Christ first, my wife second, and you will always be third. And I'll never forget that.
You told him that too.
Absolutely. I had that.
That was pretty gutsy.
I sentenced that I had the freedom because he opened the door. And he was very genuine. He wasn't what you see. He was very genuine. And so he said, Alex, if you keep that in order, we'll be just fine.
Yeah.
And he would remind me years later when we go trips together, I go speak for him in New York or went to get an award for him or meet with the Undersecretary of Commerce with him as an operator representative.
Really?
And I share this story, and I'm saying this to you here, Matt, right now. And said, Alex, my wife says, every time you say that, it just blows me away, Alex. You, someone who came from nothing, and here God has placed you in this position to speak on behalf of Chick-fil-A. And because Truett believed in me, and those words resonated with me, so he said, go forth. And so I did. I was allowed to, for many years within Chick-fil-A community, I was able to go teach leadership across the country for Chick-fil-A operators as a giving back, a generosity of not paid for it, just did it on my own, because Truett said, I believe you, you're 23-year-old young man.
Wow.
Go forth. So I've used that vision and that passion to give back.
Yeah.
It's about giving away. It's not about taking.
I had some mutual friends who had gone and met with him at his house. And they came back and they said, you're not going to believe the house that this guy lives in. And I thought they were describing a massive, mansion of a place.
Nope.
And they said, I don't know if I got this right, but it's in my memory. All right. They said, it's the same house he's lived in his whole life.
Correct.
It's a very modest suburban.
Very modest house. Very modest house.
I mean, he had to have been pretty wealthy.
He was pretty wealthy.
Yeah.
I was telling Tracy when I was riding him from the airport, I said, when Truett became a billionaire, I think I told you this, I was driving home and I pulled over and I just started weeping. I said, I cannot believe it. Truett is a billionaire on the Forbes list. I just wept. I said, man, God, Lord, he's sixth grade education, everything that I wasn't.
You identified.
I identified totally. And so I went home and told Nancy, I said, Nancy, I just heard Truett's on the billionaire list. He goes, Alex, Truett, the Lord trusted Truett's heart.
Yeah.
See, that was what it was about.
Yeah.
And so that is him just being incredibly generous.
Yeah, I don't get the sense that he was a billionaire for the sake of his own use.
No way. There's so many things, so much money he gave away that nobody knows about. Unknown. In fact, I was speaking in New York from receiving an award for him, and I was at a press conference, and they said, hey, Alex, Rod. I said, no, Alex is fine. He said, tell me how true it is in private.
Yeah,
I
like
said,
they were going to get the dirt.
Yeah, I said, okay, what you see in public is what he is in private. He goes, and it really quieted the room because they were looking for, the New York press. And so I was able to say that with confidence and that he stood on his values and integrity. He could open on Sundays and he would have made a whole lot more money.
Yeah, Chick-fil-A's are never open on Sunday.
And as far as I know, it'll probably be whole truth to the end. And it's been people have tried to buy it out, and they said no. Truett said no.
Well, it's one of the most valuable businesses in the country.
Yeah, it's incredible. Financially, it's an amazing profit and loss statement, but God has blessed them so much because of their heart for ministry, their heart for people, their heart for everything, for the world.
Can we hang on a second? Are you? I'll play devil's advocate for a minute. As a lawyer, I'm used to that,
that's
right?
good.
They're just selling chicken sandwiches. So you get hungry again in a couple hours. That's not really making much of a difference in the world. Sell chicken sandwiches. You did it your whole career. is there something more that can be accomplished in a job? What might be the most secular vocation you could go after, which is the restaurant industry and so forth.
Yep.
So I'm being a little facetious
That's okay.
here, but is there something behind that can be accomplished through something as mundane, so to speak? I mean, it is a good chicken sandwich,
Right? I
but
agree.
it is just a chicken sandwich, right?
Friday for my retirement, for sure.
But what makes that so different because of the choices that were made, not only by the founder, but by many of you as operators?
So the key to Chick-fil-A success is the operator agreement. It's the operator.
Yeah.
Because it's who they select. As a CEO, the most important decision a CEO makes is who he hires. So they're incredibly great at hiring the right people. They don't hire just Christians. They're all across the board. But the standards of excellence they're demanded. I mean, that's part of the agreement.
It's tough.
The
selection process is
it
like
is
up there
tough
with the Navy SEALs.
It is very tough. There's a research that shows it's harder to get into Chick-fil-A than to be a SEAL, to go into Harvard. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It is a 2-year process at best, if you're lucky. And it was 2 years when I had to get in.
Yeah.
But
what are they looking for? Wharton Business School grads?
Nope.
No. What?
That's important.
Yeah.
Now
Gotta
more than
be
ever.
smart.
You got to be smart. But as Truett always said, I want your heart. See,
How does he tell? I mean, what?
It is.
What are you looking for?
It's a gift that he has. And as an operator, when I would select thousands of team members, that's what I look for. When I'm looking for leaders, they can have great paper. They can have a great resume, and they can come into work. They could come into work at one of my restaurants, and I could tell within the first 2 hours whether they could do it or not. Because if they were humble and put others before them, that's what makes Chick-fil-A separate. It's the people that makes them different.
Well, give me an example of how that shows up in the day-to-day operation.
Okay.
What would a successful operator do in a certain situation versus somebody who maybe doesn't have what it takes?
So as an operator, this is something that I hang my hat all the time, is that you have a responsibility to lead and an opportunity to serve. The responsibility is you lead your business with excellence, and the opportunity to serve is your heart. If I can teach responsibility, I can't teach heart. So the heart comes out in how you serve and treat people. You know, when I had people that worked for me for 18, 20 years in the fast food industry, paid very well, cost me income, but I got to see their kids be born, put hot food on their table, had to fire them because it was the right thing to do. That's just part of being an excellent leader. Excellent leader doesn't mean you compromise on standard. It means your bar is higher. So that is not a common personality in Chick-fil-A operators. Some of them have it. Some of them don't. It all depends on how you're wired. But it's the people part. I mean, we don't just serve a chicken sandwich, Matt.
Yeah.
We serve people.
Yeah.
And
that's what I'm getting at.
See, it's about the people. For me, it's always been about the people.
There's something different about walking into a restaurant. If it's a Chick-fil-A versus, any of the other ones where you can get a chicken sandwich. There's something intangible. And I think you guys have figured out that there's actually something tangible
Absolutely.
to create that.
It's loyalty. It's profitable. If you create loyalty and if your team member retention is low, your profits are higher, your guests are more satisfied, and you have more longevity of strategic growth. Here's an easy example about people and profits. There was a young man working for me in Tampa in a mall a long time ago, real long time ago, and I caught him stealing.
Oh, no.
His dad was a pastor, and he was furious with me that I arrested him. He's in jail. He said, "You put my son in jail." I said, "He committed a crime. I am loving him right now. And you may not like me right now, but I did the right thing. It's not who's right, it's what's right." He was mad at me for a long time. About a year afterwards, he goes, "Alex, I want to ask for forgiveness because now I can see that you really do love my son."
Wow.
I said, "I still do. I know it was hard to see. It was painful for me to see the judge say, 'You're going to jail.'" And so what was really—
that's hard. I've been in that situation.
It's
too.
terrible.
There's a lot of political, intangible pressure on you to look the other way. Or just
my heart bleeds for him, but I said I knew I made the right decision.
Wow.
He got out of jail, Matt, 5 years later. It was a big deal. Wow. He said, "Alex, I want to say thank you for loving me. Because if I had not been thrown in jail, I don't know where I would have ended up.
Yeah. So he responded correctly to that.
Absolutely.
Wow.
The correct.
But did you have the freedom? What was the freedom to make a difference in the day-to-day
Yeah.
within that model?
Great question. There are some requirements.
Yeah.
But because you're considered an owner, you're an independent contractor, you're an LLC, you're a corporation, so you're not really an employee of Chick-fil-A. It's a partnership.
Yeah.
So you do have freedom to set your own hiring standards, your own pay rate, your own 401k. All they ask is you serve great food, safe. Otherwise, everything's on you.
Oh man, if it's not safe, that's a big problem. Yeah,
for sure.
That's a national headline.
And so the incentive for the operator is to perform at a high level because you produce revenues, you get profits. I always tell classes when I speak that I've worked for Chick-fil-A for 42 years. Excuse me, with Chick-fil-A for 42 years. I never had the same paycheck 2 months in a row, ever.
Is that right?
Ever.
Yeah.
That's because it relied on your performance. Bottom line, revenues, costs, net profit.
Yeah.
And so that right there makes you want to be really good. But it's how you treat people. How you treat people. And if you're in to make a lot of money, you can make a lot of money at Chick-fil-A. I was about impacting the kingdom and blessing people and growing them.
How glad are you right now not to be in the chicken industry, knowing how much this stuff is costing?
Oh yeah, well we've been through these cycles before, and it is a very hard.
Unbelievable.
It is unbelievable.
So right now in our dining room, we normally get a box of eggs for about $22. Okay, it's $260.
Yep, very expensive.
And we go through 16 of them a week.
Wow.
And we'll order. We can order 16 of them, and they might deliver 5.
Correct. Yeah, for sure.
It's like unreal right now. And then, of course, that's the eggs. We know the old chicken and the egg problem,
sure.
Right? But the chicken prices are through the roof too. So those kinds of fluctuations would be another place where you have to kind of make some decisions.
You have to absorb it.
Yeah.
You don't get to say, hey.
I think this week we won't be serving chicken.
Correct. Correct.
That ain't an option.
The freedom is like when it's good, it's good.
Okay.
When it's not good, it's still not good because your income is tied to how you perform.
Yep.
And for me, it's about serving guests. I didn't say wait on guests. I said serve guests. So I led with serving the servant leadership model all the time.
Were you present in the store
in the very early years I was.
Yeah.
But after when I had 2 stores, I had organizational structure. I had director of operations in both stores, executive director, HR person.
What'd you do to stay in touch?
I was present.
Yeah.
I made an intentional decision. I want to impact people's lives. I wanted to know my people.
Yeah.
I want to know what's going on. I had a lot of Hispanics that worked for me and other ethnicities, and I wanted them to know that I love you.
Yeah.
I love you enough to demand the very best of you. So I'm here to serve you. And they would have the freedom to say, hey, Alex, you did that wrong. And And I always use that as an example, Matt, when I have leaders that I'm developing in my restaurant to be operators. I said, I want you to listen to what I'm about to say. If you can grab this verbiage here, it'll be really good for you. I said, her name was Alicia. I said, Alicia, I am so sorry. Please forgive me. And those words came out of my mouth all the time.
As the operator.
As the owner. To them, I'm the owner.
The owner.
The Hispanics call me padrón. That means I'm the owner. But the operator, and they said, you're a reflection of me. And so I want you to lead like I lead by serving, putting others before yourself. And when you do that, leaders, you change lives.
Yeah.
For the good of them, not for us making more money. And God was such a blessing to us, how he blessed me, because I led different. I led with people first, and I led with my heart.
Yeah, I can see that.
I led with my heart, and it cost me income. I mean, I'm telling you, Matt, I lost a lot of income because I would always put my people first.
Yeah.
But I never compromised excellence. I did not compromise, jeopardizing the Chick-fil-A brand. Yeah. And so I think that's part of why Chick-fil-A let me go across the country and teach leadership, because they wanted that to be poured back in, because it was getting harder and harder. The revenue and profits were incredible. I mean, we talked about the pandemic. In 2022, 2021, for sure, we had the best year ever at Chick-fil-A.
Really?
Yep. And 22 was even better than 2021.
Wow. And navigating all of those challenges.
Yep.
Because you had operators that were trained to be
being
independent thinkers,
present,
creative problem solvers.
Yeah, our dining rooms weren't open. We were limited menus.
But you had that amazing drive-up experience.
Oh, yeah. We were so far ahead of the curve. It was so far ahead of the curve.
That's interesting, because we had a similar experience here. When the governor of Wisconsin, and then governors all across the country, shut down all the colleges in March of 2020. Which was actually early.
Very early.
COVID didn't get to Wisconsin until November. We had our peak day on Thanksgiving Day of 2020.
Wow.
But he shuts everything down in March, which is probably the worst thing to do, because he sent them all back to places where COVID was.
Right.
And so they shut it down. And we had 1 week of spring break to make the pivot from on campus to finish the semester through online. I was worried about a lot of things, and I fussed over a lot of things. The one thing I was never worried about was our ability to make that pivot, because we had already invested in the technological infrastructure to make that work.
Yep.
And so because we were ahead of the game, I was getting calls from peers at other institutions saying, how are you guys doing this? How are you navigating this?
Credit to you.
And, that was the same experience because we had that forethought ahead of time. So I want to ask you about something that people maybe have an insight, you have an insight in, and that is being an owner and how that works financially. People may think if you're a paycheck employee, man, I want to be the owner someday. I'll be rich and I'll have all the time in the world and I'll just have wealth coming out my ears. And maybe they don't understand that the owner gets paid last.
Correct.
The owner doesn't get paid first. You've alluded to it a couple of times, like that money came out of my pocket.
Absolutely.
Can you explain that dynamic a little bit?
So the Chick-fil-A operator agreement is very unique. There's not one like it anywhere, because Truett and Jimmy Collins, at that point was Truett's number 2 man, developed this agreement that made it very incentivized for operators. Truett always believed in having your own business. In fact, Truett was a very strong component for a long time about you only get one.
Okay.
For a very long time. But anyway,
so make the most of it.
That's right. He said, if you're there, you're going to be there.
Yeah.
And that's your responsibility. And so it is about when you're the owner, I get to make my decisions. I set my pay rates, my salaries, my marketing budgets. I don't get to set the prices, and I don't get to say what I want to sell. It's all dictated by contract. But it's about blessing people. So if you're driving dollars to the bottom, you're not going to pay as well. You're probably going to be pretty lax on some of your cleaning. You're not going to spend much marketing. And so, but when you're an owner in Chick-fil-A, you have a responsibility to uphold the brand.
Yeah.
When you're an owner, like when I retired, people say, wow, is just Chick-fil-A going to take care of you? I said, Chick-fil-A is not going to do anything.
There's no pension.
There is no pension, dude. This is all me.
Yeah.
Likewise, when I get to bless my team members with their own 401ks, paid vacations, paid insurance.
Wait. You're in the fast food industry.
Yep.
And you're giving out benefits like that?
Absolutely.
That's unheard of.
Absolutely. Because I want to make sure my people know I care about them.
Wow. So along those lines, I was thinking about the fact that you said language was a real challenge for you in school. But then I'm thinking, based on where your restaurants are located, where you're at in the South, being bilingual probably was a tremendous asset to you later on.
Absolutely. It was a blessing.
You turned what was a challenge into a great benefit, didn't you?
Yeah. So the Hispanic community was very, like when I go visit operators across the country, even here, when walking around the campus, you speak Spanish? I said, yeah. So no, you don't. I said, you want to talk? So I talk. And so I'm able to talk their language.
Yeah.
I can relate to them. And so it is a blessing that God has placed me in this situation. Tampa, St. Pete is a hotbed for Hispanics. So when I came to Atlanta, because the Lord said, come, and I went.
Okay.
And I left everything in Tampa, St. Pete, my whole family, to come to Atlanta because I wanted to honor God with his calling. And I went. And nobody believed me. Why are you going there? I said, God told me to go, and I'm going to obey.
Wow.
And he put me in this store that nobody wanted. Bad labor situation.
Yep.
Within a couple years, it was the highest volume Chick-fil-A in Atlanta, one of the highest volumes in a long time for a long time. And he said, "This is why I brought you here, to go now and give back to the nations, and bless people's lives." And that's why I did it.
With the best chicken on the planet.
Absolutely. Now it was hard, but it was really hard work.
How many? Just give me a scope of it. How many employees are going to be at a location like that?
Well, it depends. When I had two stores,
count, yeah.
when I had 2 stores, I had 200.
Wow.
When I had one, it was about 120. Some operators have 3, and they have 300. So it is a structured organizational chart that's required to give great performance.
Is that a constant strain of trying to fill positions
Absolutely.
and recruit new staff and get them trained?
So hard. It is very hard. It drives me crazy. I keep saying it drives me, not anymore. It drove me nuts.
Yeah.
Because it was my biggest pressure point.
I feel that too.
Because it's
Talent
so hard.
Acquisition and retention is so hard.
But I would lead with my heart, and they take advantage of you. And I was waiting for the people to say, they would say, "Hey, Alex, when are you going to change?" I said, "I'm not changing. I'm not going to mess up my philosophy because one is taking advantage of it."
But how do you do that? How do you stay generous when somebody has taken advantage of your generosity?
Because I know who I serve. And if he knows my heart is right, he'll make it right. And he did.
So you weren't doing that for that person, although it benefited them.
I was honoring him first, always. Even in the midst of conflict within the operator community, even conflict with Chick-fil-A corporate staff, they always knew.
Wait. Conflict?
Well, meaning I was, remember what I said earlier, Matt?
I thought it would be just this utopia.
No. So it's amazing because my one of my life mottos is not who's right, is what's right.
Yep.
And I always tell you the truth. And everybody loves the truth until it's at them. Think about that. I would have directors ask me to go visit an operator having issues. Said, "I want you to speak truth." I said, "Okay, I'll be glad to, with honor and respect." So then I would have another director ask me to tell that director something. And he said, "Hey, wait a minute. I didn't quite want to know that bad." I said, "Well, you can't have it both ways. I'm not going to compromise my integrity because of who you are, because I know who I serve."
Wow.
And I want to honor him.
Yeah. I'm not just answering to you. I'm answering
I'm
to
answering to
a higher power.
him. Yep.
Amazing.
And so I led my business that way to my people, these teenage kids, these future Chick-fil-A leaders. I wanted them to say, you can make a difference in somebody's life. It's not about the dollars and cents. That's just a result of leading with your heart. And then God blesses that. He blesses that.
Anybody ever ask you, "Alex, you're different, man. What makes you tick? Why are you so different?"
All the time.
Yeah.
And I just tell them because I know who I serve.
That's a great answer.
I know who I serve. I submit my life to him. He controls it all, and I trust him.
So at some point, you decided to cash out, retire.
No cash out. There is no cash out, dude.
You can't sell the store?
No, you can't, nothing. Nope.
That's interesting.
Yep. You don't own anything. You're just leasing everything.
So you decide, okay, enough of this.
Yep.
The stress, I don't know what
No,
got
that's a good word. There was stress.
Okay.
There was stress.
I mean, there's success, but people don't understand the phrase burden of leadership sticks with me a lot.
Yeah.
And I know that that's something that you wear because you feel responsible for all these people you've made commitments.
It was so hard that last day I walked out.
Yeah.
It was really painful.
Yeah. And you're still feeling that a little
Yeah,
bit.
it's painful.
Yeah.
It's been a year since I retired.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing those team members that have been with me 18, 20 years. I mean, I saw them get married, bury their parents, have kids have fights. And to walk away from that was I knew I'd probably never see them again in that capacity because I loved them.
Did you get a chance to sense what the impact was that you had in their lives?
I got to do it. I got to see it through all the years.
Yeah.
And to this day, I still have people that have worked for me that become operators or have gone on staff.
Really? They became operators
yeah.
themselves?
Oh, yeah.
They had what it took?
Oh, yeah. And they were very successful.
I'll be.
A whole lot more than I ever was.
But probably a lot because of what they learned from your
Yeah. I had a
mentorship.
retirement party, surprise retirement party, and they all came. And a lot of them came. I shouldn't say all because there was a lot of them. And their words of thankfulness and gratefulness. See, to me, that's more important than dollars.
Do those words come back to you
All the time.
this whole last year?
Yeah.
as you've-
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But it was painful as I processed through. My wife goes,
Yeah.
Alex, it's been a year. You're not even reacting. I said, well, I'm just trying to process it because it's the emotional connections that we had while doing a very difficult business. And I got to see their lives be impacted. I mean, I got to see their lives changed. And hopefully I'll be able to share one of the stories at one of the workshops today about how important it is to lead with purpose and to lead with coaching.
I'm looking forward to that. You're here for our Leader to Leader conference. You see some of the college students. I hope you'll get a chance to interact with some of them and pour into their lives a little bit.
Yep.
Some of the
That's
lessons
why I'm here.
learned. Yeah.
That's why I'm here.
So what does the future hold? You're going to stay busy and, in retirement, what are you planning to stay in touch with and involved with?
Well, I'm very much involved with still developing leaders. I still do some consulting part-time to help future leaders, conversations like this.
Yeah.
Not only with just Chick-fil-A people, but with other leaders, because the principles of leadership are the same.
Yeah.
And so I lead by the book, and I kind of intermingle it into the conversation and say, this is where my source of purpose is.
Yeah.
This is why I lead the way I do. And I know when I've talked to a group of CEOs a few years ago in the Atlanta market, net revenues in about $18 to $20 million a year. So we want to hear you come talk to why Chick-fil-A is different. I said, okay. So I'm in the room and I start talking. And as soon as I start talking about money and being generous, over the top generous, you can see the room, Matt, it's like the silo just goes up. They don't want to touch it. I said, well, if you're not willing to be generous.
Is it because they don't have enough?
Well, I can't. I want to say that, and I probably said that too many times in other rooms that got me in trouble. But that's the truth.
Can you be generous when you're poor?
Yeah, I'm generous all the time.
Yeah, your parents were not wealthy, but they were generous.
They gave your
community.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so when you see that, then you want to be able to come and give back. So that's part of my consulting. I live in Asheville, right close to Swannanoa, where we had that major hurricane come through. Right at the apex where my son's church is at, is the focal point of the whole destruction, and that whole community got just devastated. So I'm going to spend some time trying to rebuild that community using some of my leadership skills to bring people together to make it happen. So that's got my attention right now. But I do want to be able to give back to the Lord for what he's done for me.
Well, you've got some finances, and I sense that you're very generous in that way. But I think you're also talking about your time.
My time.
And your expertise.
Absolutely. That is my biggest gift right now.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to get people to understand, how can I be generous and still be successful? Because God said so.
Well, there's only so much of you to go around.
Well, that's true.
God may be infinite, but you've got some limitations.
Yep.
And you've been involved in some very interesting projects over the years. This Atlanta Dream Center is something I want to talk to you about.
Sure.
How did you get involved with that?
Well, we went to, we were in the suburbs of Atlanta. We were going to a church, and then the youth pastor there and his dad were starting a church in the middle of downtown in the 4th Ward. Back then, it was very low income, hard time, not a good place to go. So they went and planted this church in a warehouse finally, but we met in parks and tents.
Yeah. Wow.
And my daughter said, hey, Dad, I think we need to go there. father protection, and all that. So, okay, we'll go there the first Sunday. And we did. And Matt, it was like my wife and I goes, we're staying. We were the only white people there.
Is that right?
Yeah. And we were there for 15 years.
Wow.
Doing the work. So then they started, hey, let's go after the human trafficking. We saw firsthand just, it was not pretty. It was terrible. So I got put on the board, partially because of Chick-fil-A, but because of, I had a heart for it. And so we saw the devastation of human trafficking. The Atlanta airport was the nugget of the trafficking, because they all would come in. I mean, it was like, we'll be there at 4 a.m. and they drop off the people, the ladies and kids and males, and they fly back out. And then you would not believe the people that would go.
Yep.
And the board of directors that I was on with, they were just clueless. I said, guys.
Well, they're on the board of an organization devoted to this.
They just could not believe. We had to prove it to them.
Wow.
That this is going on. But then we started doing homeless ministry. This is very low.
Is that a unique thing to the Atlanta area? Because it is strategic as a gateway kind of into the country, and it's the most, if not up at the top, trafficked airports just generally, but also a huge hub for human trafficking.
For sure, it is. And I didn't know it either until I experienced it. I saw the results. And so it's still probably, as I haven't been on the board probably in 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
When we moved to a different church with our other daughter. And so it is definitely, they've done tremendous work, but it is very prevalent. And it's very synchronized how they do it.
I think most of us have no idea. Like, it's not a world we know about that exists. Maybe just in movies and TV and things like that.
The pimps or the traffickers are very smart, very strategic. They know exactly what they're looking for, the identity of the victims they're looking for, and they have a system on how they do it. And so you have to be very involved in what's going on, because it's so vast. And the problem, Matt, is that there's people that want to do it. There are people that don't pay for it.
Yeah.
See, that's the flip side of that.
There's a lot of money flowing through hands.
Cash free, no taxes, no nothing.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Although the IRS would love to get a cut of that.
Absolutely.
I'm sure.
I would agree. So it is a very humbling position. I don't know how it is now, but when I was there,
it's overwhelming.
It is. I would go home from the meetings just like I've been through trauma. Yeah. Hearing the stories, but then I saw the victories.
Right.
You see girls that you're able to get out and just change their lives. And so when you see that, and I go to work at Chick-fil-A, man, they don't got it bad. These girls and guys have it bad. So it really softens your heart to say, hey, Lord, what are you going to do here? What are you going to do here? So it is very prevalent.
You talked about operating with integrity. You've talked about your mission to put others first. But God is blessed along the way. You have a good family.
Yep.
You said you have a son that's pastoring. That must be, and I'm assuming now that you're in that area, is that a church
we moved there because he kind of put the guilt trip on us.
Okay.
Because we have 6 grandkids in Marietta and we have 4 in Asheville.
Okay.
And he said, Dad, I think you're going to retire, right? I said, yes. I think you need to come.
It's a beautiful area.
It is, even after the hurricane. Yeah. And so he put on a hard sell. And he, to our daughters, because we have a lake house that we all meet for, big occasions. And so he would say, hey, I don't feel sorry for you. You've had them for 12 years and we've had nothing. They're coming to us. And my daughter said, he's right. We've taken
It's not that far up the road.
Not that far up the road. And so what a blessing to be able to be in there and just serve him. And his church is growing phenomenally. And then the hurricane came with just total devastation, just so much misery, so much loss. And so God placed us there for a reason, but we were obedient. We came. It's been hard to go there because we changed from where we were at to there, which is a lot better, slow pace, no bad traffic.
Small town.
Small town. Everything's 10 minutes away. It was great. But we still miss the other 6 grandkids and other 2 daughters.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
So as we close our time together, and this has been a fascinating conversation, thank you so much. We're here on a college campus. You got a lot of business students, a lot of students that are very optimistic about the future and what they want to accomplish. Some of the realities of that. There'll be some joys and some successes, but some tough times as well.
Yep.
What's your go-to advice for young people that are on that other end of the career spectrum?
The other end of the career is they don't know what they want to do, or they are just starting.
Well, they're going to get into whatever business God opens the door, but at this point, that's a pretty nebulous concept.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, my advice to them, listen to what the Lord is telling you in your spirit, because he honors you following him. He didn't say it'd be easy. He said he would bless you.
Yeah.
But if you're going to honor him, trust him in that. You got to trust him in what he's calling you to do, because he wants you to be successful or not. But either way, he's still God. And if you get caught up in the dollars of what's really successful, because when we go to at the foot of the cross, we're all the same. There's no difference. So he gives you blessings to impact further kingdoms, not for you to accumulate. And the world will tell you that. How much is enough? One more dollar. I have seen so many ruined lives at Chick-fil-A when they were chasing dollars and they were being put on a pedestal for success, but their home life was a mess.
Yeah.
Because they were following the wrong thing. So it's easy. It's so alluring. Money is alluring.
Yeah.
But there's a reason there's so much talk, so much scripture about money in the Bible.
Yeah.
God knew. Are you going to put me first? Are you going to put me first before another house or a bigger car or two houses? Now, don't get me wrong. Truett was a very successful man. He was a billionaire many times over. But Truett always said to me, and I always remember this, Matt, as we're closing, that without profits, there is no mission.
Right.
But you can't put money before profits. I mean, you can't put people before profits. And so I always remember that. Said he wants me to be a hard businessman. That's where the excellence comes in.
Yeah.
But what do you do with it? Do you impact the kingdom and people, or are you not?
Yeah.
So that's what I would tell them. And you got to know what's driving you. If you're greedy or want to put you at the top, he's not going to honor that. There's got to be sacrifice for him. And when you do that, he opens up the doors to greater blessings. Or not.
Or not.
Or not. You got to put that other part in there, because sometimes it's not.
Yeah. The three Hebrew children getting thrown into the fiery furnace, their response is interesting, right? It says, our God is able to save us from this burning fiery furnace. But if not,
I will still honor God.
That's right.
It's a great story.
That's right. God is able, but if not. I appreciate so much your investment of time, willingness to come up and be a benefit here at our Leader to Leader conference over the next couple of days.
I'm grateful.
Looking forward to the workshops and giving us the time here on the podcast as well.
Well, hopefully it'll be worth it. I'm a little nervous, but I love talking to kids, young people. Sorry, not kids, young people. I'll tell them, I'll be honest, Matt. I'll be very transparent.
Tell them the truth.
I will tell them the truth. All the good and the ugly, but they know if they walk out and know, man, I want his heart for the Lord.
That's right.
That is success.
I agree. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir, Matt. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to On Mission, a podcast produced by Maranatha Baptist University. What do you want from college? Classes, professors, and lifelong friends? Yes. But most importantly, you should ask, will this school help me become the leader God wants me to be? But you might worry, will I have a community that I can belong to as a young believer? You will. At Maranatha Baptist University in Watertown, Wisconsin. Attending the wrong college carries a high price, undermining your family's values, lost identity, and the tragic destruction of faith and hope that accompanies the cultural filth of a permissive worldly environment. Maranatha is more than a Christian college. We are a community on mission to help you make the most of your college years. Join the family, pursue excellence, advance truth, and find out more at mbu.edu. For more information about our podcast guests and to listen to all the previous episodes, visit mbu.edu/podcast. And join us again next week as we examine what keeps leaders on mission.